You ever have one of those ideas that just feels perfect, right up until you try to explain it to someone and then it just kind of falls apart? Well, today we're diving into the step that fixes that. We're talking about the bridge between ideas in your head and things in the real world, the prototype stage of design thinking. Let's get into it. All right, so just to catch up on where we are in our design thinking journey, we've already gone through empathy, define, and ideate. So we've felt the user's pain, we've nailed down the problem, and we've brainstormed a bunch of solutions. Now comes the really fun part, prototyping. It's time to stop talking and start making. So, what even is a prototype? I mean, we all have an image in our head, right? Probably something polished and techy. But in design, it's so much more than just a fancy model. It's actually a tool for learning. Let's break down what that really means. To put it simply, a prototype is just an early, testable version of your idea. And the most important part of that definition, it's not supposed to be the final product. It's not meant to be perfect. In fact, it's in all those imperfections where the real learning starts to happen. And listen, a prototype doesn't have to be some complex 3D printed thing. Seriously, it could be a super rough sketch on a napkin. It could be a model made out of cardboard and tape. You could even just act out a scenario with a friend. The goal here isn't complexity. It's just to make your idea tangible enough to test something specific. What if I told you the ugliest, messiest prototype you make could end up being the most valuable one? It's absolutely true. Because the goal is not to make something pretty. The goal is to learn something new. As soon as you stop worrying about how it looks, you free yourself up to just experiment and figure out what actually works. Okay, so if the main goal is to learn, how do we do that? Well, we build. It might sound a little backward, but in design, we literally build to think. The physical act of creating something, of getting it out of your head and into your hands, clarifies your ideas and exposes problems you never would have seen otherwise. It's so tempting, isn't it? To try and solve every single problem in our mind before we even pick up a pen or a piece of cardboard. We think we can just map out the perfect solution in our imagination. But you know what? That's almost never how it works in reality. Because the second you start to actually build something, you uncover all these little flaws and weird assumptions you didn't even know you had. It's a guarantee. That's why getting your hands dirty is such an essential part of the design process. When you build something, you immediately start to see your idea from a user's point of view. You find out what parts are confusing, what just feels clunky or awkward, and what just plain doesn't work. These are the kinds of insights you just can't get by thinking alone. You have to get comfortable with this mantra. Fail early, improve quickly. Don't be afraid of failing. In fact, you should run towards it. The sooner you figure out what's wrong, the sooner you can start making it right. Prototyping lets you have a bunch of small, cheap failures so you can have a big success in the end. All right, so we know why we need to prototype. Now let's talk about how. There are basically two flavors of prototypes, low fidelity and high fidelity. And picking the right one at the right time is key. Think of it this way. Low-fidelity prototypes are your quick and dirty sketches. They're awesome for testing the big picture concept without wasting time. High-fidelity ones, on the other hand, are much more polished and interactive. They look and feel a lot closer to the real thing, so they're better for testing details later on. Seriously, when you're just starting out, low fidelity is your absolute best friend. It lets you explore tons of different ideas fast and cheap. You really don't want to fall into that trap of spending days making a beautiful, polished prototype, only to find out your core idea is flawed. Oh, the temptation to make that first prototype perfect, it is so strong. But you have to resist. It's a trap. In the world of design, good enough is almost always better than perfect, because good enough gets you learning and moving forward. It really is that simple. The second you start chasing perfection, you stop experimenting. The goal is to get your idea out there for feedback, not to create a museum piece. The sooner you share, the sooner you learn. So, quick check-in. Do any of these sound familiar? Spending way too much time on tiny details? Kinda hiding your prototype because you're scared of feedback? Or maybe just building one single version and calling it a day? Yeah, these are all signs you might be stuck in that perfection trap. So, how do you get out of it? Just follow this simple little loop. Prototype, learn, refine. That's it. Build a small, simple version of your idea, show it to someone to get feedback, and then use that feedback to make it just a little bit better. Just keep repeating that cycle, and you'll be blown away by how fast your idea gets good. This is a huge mindset shift. Are you building a prototype to prove that you're right? Or are you building it to find out where you might be wrong? The best designers use prototyping as a tool for discovery. They aren't afraid of being wrong because they know that's where the most valuable insights are hiding. Ultimately, if you want to boil it all down, prototyping is just the process of turning your assumptions into actual evidence. It's how you go from saying, I think this will work, to being able to say, I know this will work. So, you've built your prototype. You've started turning those assumptions into evidence. What do you think the next logical step in the whole process is? That's right, testing. Think about it. A prototype is basically a question you're asking, and testing is how you get the answer. You've got to put that prototype in front of real users to get the feedback you need to make something truly great. So, the next time you have a big idea, don't just let it sit in your head. Build it, test it, see where it goes. That is the real power of prototyping. Thanks so much for tuning in.